Good evening, people. Thank you for listening to J-Ho, the Sports Dude, and thank you for listening to my sports podcast. And this week we got plenty of stuff to talk about in the world of Boston sports. Red Sox baseball season is over, but we still got plenty to talk about. Let me shut this off. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to talk about this week. We got Patriots, who this week had a big victory over the Green Bay Packers. And we also have, we'll do a weekly recap of the Celtics and Bruins, who have had very interesting weeks. And we'll also talk about awards as far as the Red Sox are concerned. And I have some comments about that, especially when it comes to MVP. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. And also, I believe going on right now is the Patriots-Titans game. So I don't usually do this. I think I've done it once, but right after the game, I'll give you a quick immediate reaction to what I saw from the game. So stay tuned till near the end of the show to listen to that. So when the game is pretty much over, I'll do a quick recap. But for now, let's talk about the Patriots and the Packers. But actually, before we do that, I want to give a shout out to the UMass men's hockey team this week for beating Providence 3-2 at the Mullins Center this Thursday, which was a really big win for the team, who was ranked fourth in the country. So yeah, so far the UMass men's hockey team's having a really good year. They're currently 7-1 with winning 3-0 at home and 4-1 on the road. So, and they're currently ranked 9th in the country. So, definitely a team to keep an eye out for. So, yeah, very very happy about what I'm seeing from the men's hockey team, and what a thrilling game. All right, on to the New England Patriots, who this week beat the Green Bay Packers 31-17. And so going into this game, also the Red Sox were doing their little championship tour, and they decided to stop by and show off the World Series trophy in Gillette Stadium. And so with that, the Patriots won 31-17, and they had their sixth straight victory. And going into this game, I thought it would be a shootout, but that wasn't exactly the case. So looking at both teams, I'll mention some stats. So on first downs, the Patriots had 28, Packers had 22. Total yards offensively, Patriots had 433 yards, Packers had 367 yards. And as far as penalties, Patriots had 5, Packers had 7. As far as time of possession, the Patriots had the ball for 27 minutes and 26 seconds, and the Packers had the ball for 32 minutes and 34 seconds. So looking at this game, what impressed me the most was actually the Patriots defense. You know, I've been pretty critical of this Patriots defense and how I thought they were terrible and that they would get lit up by Aaron Rodgers, and that wasn't exactly the case. I gotta give credit to the defense. I thought they did a very good job of limiting Aaron Rodgers in this game. While they only got 1 sack, I thought they were able to consistently put pressure on Aaron Rodgers in the pocket and make him uncomfortable. And I also thought the secondary did a very good job covering the Packers' top receivers, even though they did allow a 51-yard pass to Marquise Valdes-Scantling. Hopefully I said that right. And a lot of Aaron Rodgers' completions were in very good coverage. So I'm actually giving props to the defense, who I thought actually did a pretty good job. And also they got the only turnover of the game with a fumble recovery off of Aaron Jones. And Aaron Rodgers, while he was fine, he wasn't exactly Aaron Rodgers, especially in the second half. in the fourth quarter, in which the Packers scored 0 points. Aaron Rodgers went 24 for 43 and threw 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I thought, considering where this defense was, I thought it was a very good performance against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. My only issue with the defense would probably be I thought they definitely could have done a better job of stopping the run. Even though they didn't exactly get implode against the run game, I thought they could have done a better job of stopping the Packers' running game. They allowed 117 rushing yards against the Packers, so one thing to look out for is hopefully the Patriots can improve the run defense. And offensively, I thought the Patriots were a little inconsistent, even though they got the job done in the fourth quarter with 2 touchdowns to put the Packers away. And Rob Gronkowski, Sonny Michel, and Shaq Mason are injured, so it's a little understandable that the offense is not is a little inconsistent right now. But I thought the offense overall did a solid job, even though they were a bit up and down. Brady, I thought, was okay. He completed 16 of his first 22 passes, but then things got a little ugly with 7 straight incompletions in the third quarter, which is the most of his career. However, I thought Brady and the offense turned it up in the fourth quarter, like I said. With the game tied, the Patriots were able to get the turnover, and they were able to quickly capitalize with 4 straight completions from Brady. And then they were able to use a little trickery with a 37-yard pass from Julian Edelman to get to the Packers' 2-yard line. However, this time, unlike in the playoff game against the Ravens when Julian Edelman threw the touchdown pass to Danny Amendola, this was sort of like a screen pass to James White, which went for a lot of yards. So, and then within 2 plays, James White scored, ran into the end zone for a touchdown. And then on the next Patriots drive, on the third play of the drive, Brady found Gordon over the middle for a 55-yard touchdown, which essentially put away the game. I thought the running game was actually pretty solid without Sonny Michel. Cordell Patterson, who last week I criticized him because I thought he was, I was pretty sure I said he wasn't a running back, and I thought he didn't do a very good job running the ball, and I thought he probably should have stayed doing punt returns and maybe catching balls. But I thought he was pretty solid with 61 yards on 11 carries. He averaged 5.5 yards per rush, and overall the team rushed for 123 yards. So I thought they were pretty good running the ball. And the wide receivers were either great or below average. I thought some of them had a hard time with separation. Josh Gordon was definitely the star of the game with 5 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. James White was also pretty solid in the short passing game with 6 receptions for 72 yards. And Julian Edelman was effective as always with 6 catches with 71 yards. And that's about it as far as production from the wide receivers. I thought the offensive line was pretty good, even though I thought that they did allow some pressure to get on Tom Brady. He was sacked once, but I thought overall they did a pretty good job of blocking Brady and giving him time in the pocket and giving holes for the run game. So overall, I thought the difference in this game was the fourth quarter and the turnover. And also a big part of it was the coaching staff out scheming the Packers. Even though I won't say it was just that, because I know a lot of people in the media are saying that this was just coaching. But even though coaching did have a big part of this game, I thought I did feel Tom Brady's impact, because the Packers didn't seem to, in my opinion, they didn't really seem to go in the play at a very fast pace. They seem to want to slow down the game. So they could limit the amount of times Brady was on the field. So I thought that you felt Brady's impact that way, even though he didn't have the greatest game of all time. You definitely could feel that the other team that Packers were fearing Tom Brady, and understandably so. They definitely suffered a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So, and you give Tom Brady enough times against a weak defense, it's going to be very ugly. And so very good win by the Patriots over a not great, but I think a decent team in the Green Bay Packers. I mean, maybe not a great team, but with a great quarterback. So I thought it was a great sign for the defense, who has been struggling for quite a bit of the season. And while I'm talking about this game, I might as well address the controversial penalties that happened. So the first was the running into the kicker, which allowed the Patriots to get first down. So looking at the play, I didn't think the guy purposely ran into the kicker, which I guess is what the referee saw. But I mean, I guess if you looked at it from a certain angle, it might have looked like he was targeting the kicker, but I looked at it. I don't think he was, but I can see from the ref's certain vantage point that it was running into the kicker. Targeting the kicker. And as far as the ejection of Whitehead, he slapped David Andrews' helmet, and he was ejected. I didn't think that was very necessary. I thought it was a very stupid thing for Whitehead to do, but I didn't think it really resulted in an ejection. It's not like he didn't really punch him. He would just kind of slap in the face. But whatever. It is what it is, and now the Patriots have won 6 straight games. And so why don't we do a quick preview of the Tennessee Titans Patriots game? I normally do previews near the end, but near the end I'm going to actually review this game that's actually going on. So I'll give you a quick preview before the game really starts. So for this game, Rob Gronkowski is out, but Sony Michel is back. And so let's look at the Tennessee Titans, shall we? So to me, what I noticed researching this team is definitely the strength of the Tennessee Titans is their defense. They're number 1 in the NFL as far as points per game with 16.8. They're 6th in the NFL against the pass. They're 10th in the NFL against the run. Offensively, they're not as impressive. They're ranked 28th in the NFL as far as points per game, with scoring average of 18.7 points. They're 30th in passing, and they're 15th in rushing. So they're not exactly super impressive offensively. So to me, they kind of seem like a better version of the Buffalo Bills, with a very, very solid defense and a okay offense. The Bills have a solid defense, and they have a horrifically bad offense with a horrifically bad quarterback. And Marcus Mariota is better than any of the Bills quarterbacks, but I think they're pretty challenged offensively, even though they're okay at running the ball, which seems to be their forte, and not great passing. I think Marcus Mariota is an okay quarterback. I don't consider him a great quarterback. He doesn't really if I were a defender, I wouldn't exactly lose sleep over Marcus Mariota. So yeah. Speaking of which, this team definitely has a lot of Patriots alumni. The coach is Mike Vrabel, who I'm sure you guys know was a player for the Patriots during their dynasty in the early 2000s. And now he's the coach of the team. And it's kind of interesting that he used to catch touchdown passes from Tom Brady on occasion, and now he's coaching against him. And then we also have Dion Lewis and Malcolm Butler, and Logan Ryan on who signed with the Tennessee Titans. So a lot of Patriots on this team. So that'll be kind of an interesting reunion. So here are the keys to what I think the Patriots can do to get a victory on the road. First, they got to stop the run and put the ball in the hands of Marcus Mariota and force him to beat you from the pocket. Also, keep him in the pocket because Marcus Mariota is a very good runner. So do not let him run all over Do not let him run all over the defense. And also for the Patriots, I think with Sonny Michel coming back, they need to run the ball, and which will tire out the defense. And then once that happens, the Patriots will be able to utilize the passing game and take some deep shots down the field. So I think this could be a sneaky, good, tough opponent for the Patriots. But I still think the Patriots will win this game. My prediction's going to be 27-20. So hopefully they can play well and come out with a victory on the road. And then after that will be the bye week. All right, then. Why don't we take a quick break? And when we come back, we'll talk about the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins. Hello, welcome back to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and now let's talk about the Boston Celtics, who went on a little road trip, and let's just say it was very underwhelming. So the first game was a pretty tough loss to the Indiana Pacers, who won 102-101. So the Celtics led in the first quarter 28-18, but they got outscored 84-73 the rest of the game. And at the end, they were up by 2, but Oladipo won the game with a 3. So pretty tough game for the Boston Celtics. As far as stats, field goal percentage, the Boston Celtics had a higher field goal percentage than the Pacers. They hit 43.2% of their shots. Indiana hit 41.9. 3-point percentage, Boston had 41.3. Indiana had 34.4. Turnovers, Boston had more turnovers. Boston had 14. Indiana had 13. Rebounds, Indiana had more. Boston had 51. Indiana had 58 rebounds. So I thought both Marcus Morris and Kyrie Irving had pretty solid games for the Celtics. Kyrie Irving had 18 points, and Marcus Morris had 23 points. So I thought they played really well for the Celtics. But Victor Oladipo had 24 points, and Bogdanovich had 16 points. So a very rough loss to an Eastern Conference opponent. So, and Indiana's had a pretty decent year so far. They're a solid team. I think their ceiling's pretty low, but still a pretty tough loss to a pretty decent team. And then next game they had to play the Denver Nuggets, who are actually currently 9-1. So they're actually a really solid team, and not a lot of people are really talking about them. And so this was another tough loss. They lost 115-107. So the Celtics were dominant in the first quarter. They led up 34-19, but then the rest of the game they got outscored 96-73 in the next 3 quarters. And this was definitely the Jamal Murray game. But before that, so field goal. Let's talk about the stats. So field goal percentage, Boston had a better field goal percentage than the Nuggets. Boston was 50.6% from the field, and Denver was 49.6%. 3-point percentage, Denver had the edge. Boston was 29%. Denver was 38.2%. Turnovers, Boston had 12. Denver had 13. Rebounds, Boston 43, and Denver had 59. So I thought Kyrie Irving really showed up for this game. He had 31 points. But this was definitely the Jamal Murray show. Jamal Murray scored 48 points and looked like Michael Jordan out there. So he really had a great showing. The Celtics were competitive for a while, but then at the end they kind of ran out of gas and they lost to the Denver Nuggets. So, and also I'll address this. At the end of the game, Kyrie Irving was pretty mad that Jamal Murray just shot a ball at the end just so he can get to 50 points. I do think that that's kind of disrespectful to do that at the end of the game. I mean, but at the same time, I always believe that if you don't want people to gloat over you, don't give them an opportunity to gloat. So don't allow Jamal Murray to score 48 points. So I mean, if you play that badly against him, then honestly you deserve to be gloated on. So that's how I kind of see it. And then next game, the Celtics faced the Phoenix Suns on the road, and the Celtics actually won this game 116 to 109 in overtime. However, at the beginning of this game, you definitely did not feel like the Celtics were going to win this game at all. The first half, especially offensively, was just unspeakably depressing. They were down by 55 to 35 at halftime. It was just really ugly. There's just a completely uninspired offensive performance at the half. However, like they've done all season, they were able to come back and even tie the game. And then Marcus Morris was able to hit a three-pointer with 1.1 seconds left in regulation from a feed to Kyrie Irving, because the Suns, understandably so, thought Kyrie Irving was going to take the last shot, but Kyrie smartly passed the ball to Morris, who was open while he was being double teamed, and he was able to hit the game tying shot. And then in overtime, the Celtics outscored the Suns 60-9, and they were able to get a victory over the Phoenix Suns, coming back from 22 points. As far as here are the stats for the game. Field goal percentage at Boston was 40.2 from the field. Phoenix was 44.1. 3-point percentage, Boston was 37.8. Phoenix was 31.4. Turnovers, Boston was 16. Had 16 turnovers. Phoenix had 15. Rebounds, Boston had 70 and Phoenix had 50. So a lot of rebounds for the Boston Celtics. So definitely the star of this game was Kyrie Irving, who scored a season high of 39 points, and he also scored 18 of his points in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And Kyrie also scored Boston's first 6 points in the extra period. And also Marcus Morris had a really good game with 17 points, including the game tying 3 to send the game to overtime. And Jaylen Brown also had a solid game with 17 points. And TJ Warren also for the Phoenix Suns had 29 points, so he was really good. And also Devin Booker was a beast in this game with 38 points. But in the end, the real star of the game was Kyrie Irving. So good victory on the road. And then next, the Celtics played the Utah Jazz, and they lost 123 to 115. And Kyrie actually didn't play this game because of an injury. And this was also Hayward's first game back to Utah, and he didn't exactly receive a warm reception when he got there. Nobody really talks about this, but the Utah Jazz fans can be pretty brutal, especially at home. So in this game, it was pretty competitive until the third quarter, in which Utah opened the third quarter with a 17-6 run, and Utah eventually got ahead 75-57 with just 4 minutes into the quarter, and then the Jazz built their lead to 83-63 on a layup by Crowder before Boston rallied in the fourth quarter, and the Celtics fought as much as they could, just like they have all year. The Celtics scored on 4 straight possessions, but to ignite a 15-4 run, and Rozier nailed the 3 to cut the lead down to 100-96, but that wasn't enough as the Jazz just continued to score buckets and win the game. So very tough loss on the road. So the stats for the game: Boston hit 44.3% of their shots. Utah had a season high of 55.8 hit. They hit 55.8% of their shots from three. Boston was 39.5%. Utah was 38.2%. Turnovers: Boston had 8 and Utah had 17. Rebounds: Boston had 35 and Utah completely out rebound the Celtics with 56 rebounds. So I thought the star of this game was Terry Rozier, who had 22 points. I also thought Jason Tatum had a pretty good game with 21 points. And Morris, like all season, has been definitely a big part of the bench, scoring 16 points. However, the Utah Jazz just seemed to be able to spread the ball and distribute the points better than the Celtics did. Joe Ingles had a really good game with 27 points. Donovan Mitchell had 21 points. Ricky Rubio had 17. Rudy Gobert had 17. And Jay Crowder, remember him, had 20 points. So overall, a pretty bad defensive performance from the Boston Celtics and a pretty rough loss on the road. And speaking of which, why don't we talk about what I've seen from this pretty ugly road trip so far? So what I've seen so far is Boston offensively has improved, especially with the team hitting the three-pointers. And they've improved from 29th in the NBA to offensive rating of 24th. So they have improved offensively. However, their defense has definitely not looked the same. In fact, it's really regressed quite a bit. A few weeks ago, they were number one. They were the number one rated defense in the NBA, and now it's fourth at 102.6. So in October, the Celtics were number one in the NBA as far as defensive rating. In 7 games with the 96.2 rating, and now in November in 5 games they're 24th, so and with 101.7, so complete regression. So it's been very discouraging to watch, and I think a lot of people are going to blame Kyrie Irving, but the game Kyrie Irving was out against the Utah Jazz, they didn't really look that much better on defense. And as a result, it seems like this defense is hurting this team and causing them to lose games. And I said this last week, but I'll say it again. It just seems like this team, when they have a lead, they seem to blow the lead and they have to scrap their way to victory, or they get down by a lot in the game and they have to crawl their way back to winning the game. And it did work against the Phoenix Suns, who have some talent, but they're not a great team right now. But honestly, that isn't real. I don't think that's a recipe for success. You can't keep coming down against great teams and expect to come back. Like it worked against the Phoenix Suns because they don't know how to win yet and they're not great. But the same thing happened against the Utah Jazz. They got down by a lot and they were able to fight back. But I mean, when you go up against these great teams and you get down by so much, this isn't a recipe for consistently winning games. So I'm definitely very discouraged what I've seen from the defensive side of the ball. But this team has shown the capability of playing great defense. So I'm expecting this team to improve defensively. So offensively, they've improved, even though I kind of hope that they would be a little more efficient and hopefully a little less reliant on the three, because if you're not hitting threes, then it usually just ends in a disaster. I think the saying goes, you live by the three and you die by the three. So, and the way the Celtics are playing, they seem to live and die by the three-pointers that they try to make. So I kind of want to see them more just get easier buckets and drive to the paint more. But That's just me. And so, all right. And so the defense needs to quickly improve because the next game is against the Portland Trailblazers, who are 9-3 and 4-1 at home. So they're really they're a pretty solid team, and hopefully they can turn the defense around against Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So hopefully the Celtics can turn around. I'm still very high on them, even though this road trip has been very discouraging for me. So why don't I talk about a news story that came out this week that was pretty big for the NBA and could have some implications on the Eastern Conference. So Jimmy Butler, who clearly did not want to be in Minnesota, was traded from the Timberwolves to the 76ers. And in exchange, the Wolves receive Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and Justin Patton, and a 2022 second-round pick. Usually in deals like this, whoever receives the best player wins the trade. And while Covington and Saric are solid players, they're definitely not Jimmy Butler. And so I think overall the 76ers won this trade. And as far as the second-round pick, I mean, I don't know if – I mean, how many times do second-round picks become superstars? So, I mean, I think the 76ers did win this trade. And I think it definitely does make them better. I think it does make them closer to the Boston Celtics, because before I didn't really consider the 76ers in the Boston Celtics class. But now I think this definitely moves them closer. Even though I will say I'm not 100% sure if this fixes the 76ers issues. To me, their big issue is that they're not a great shooting team. And while Jimmy Butler is a solid shooter, I wouldn't exactly say he's an amazing shooter. I wouldn't say he's an amazing three-point shooter. So I definitely think it makes him better. How much better? I think this, like I said, it makes him better. But I'm not sure. I don't know if it fixes their issues. And I don't know if I mean, at this point, the Boston Celtics are not playing great. But I still think they're better than the 76ers, as we saw with Game 1. And so I think this moves it closer to Boston, but I'm not sure if this puts them over the top. And the 76ers definitely could use a kick in the could use a boost like this. They're currently 8-6, and they've been kind of underwhelming this year. So this should definitely help them. All right, then, why don't we move on to the Boston Bruins, who had a bit of a mixed week, but it definitely ended on a good note. So why don't we talk about each of the games the Bruins played. So first game of the week was against the Nashville Predators, and they lost 1-0. Halleck was the goalie. As far as shots in this game, Predators had 40, Bruins had 26 hits. Predators had 8, and Bruins had 17. Power play goals, I mean, there was none. Block shots, even at 14 takeaways. Bruins had 7, Predators had 11. Giveaways, Bruins had 10, and Predators had 12. And so Roman Josi had the only goal in this game in the first period. And so, look at this game. Both goalies were great. Especially, even Halleck played amazing with blocking 39 of 40 shots. However, the offense just couldn't get enough shots, and they were completely outshot. I mean, if you allow 40 shots, then and you're not scoring on the other side, it's gonna be almost impossible to win. And they just couldn't get by Pecorine, and they lost. So, and then the next game, Tuukka Rask was the goalie, and they won 2-1 against the Dallas Stars in overtime. And also the Red Sox were in the building to celebrate the World Series victory in this game. And so I think every single time the Red Sox were in the building, the team won. So hopefully maybe the Red Sox can come to more games from now on. But whatever. So in this game, Dallas struck first with Radek Faksa for Dallas scoring the first goal in the first period. And then David Pastrnak scored a goal to tie the game, also in the first period. And then no goals. There were no goals for us of the game, but and then the game went to overtime. But in the third period, you kind of felt like the Bruins were outplaying the Stars. At the end of the third period, so you kind of felt like going into overtime, the Bruins had the momentum going their way, and so you kind of felt like the Bruins had a very good shot if they continued to play the way they did to win the game, and that's what happened. Brad Marchand scored in overtime. An overtime goal to win the game from an assist from Torrey Krug and David Krejci. And as far as shots on goal, Bruins had 35, Stars had 25. Bruins had 26 hits, Stars had 32 hits. Face-off wins, Bruins had 31, Stars had 25. Power play goals, Bruins were definitely dominant on the power play. They got both their goals from power play. They were 2 of 3. Stars were 0-1. So the Bruins were definitely pretty good on the penalty kill in this game. And block shots, the Stars had 13 and Bruins had 4. Takeaways, Stars had 13 and Bruins had 14. And giveaways, the Stars had 10 and the Bruins had 9. So definitely a good game for Tuukka Rask, who has been definitely been struggling the past few games, and rightly so. Halak has presumed the starting goaltending job, but I thought this was a very good game for Tuukka Rask to build his confidence. He blocked 24 shots and allowed 1 goal. So I thought it was a very good performance by Tuukka Rask. But in the next game, the Bruins played the Vancouver Canucks, and Halak started as a goalie, and this game was a complete defensive disaster. They lost the game 8-5. So just defensively, both goaltending and defense they were just completely awful. Shots on goal, Canucks had 33, Bruins had 28. Hits, Bruins had 23, Canucks had 15. Power play goals, they were both even with both having 2 power play goals on 5 power plays. And block shots, Bruins had 12, Canucks had 9. Takeaways, the Bruins had 9 and the Canucks had 11. And so here's the stat that really stands out to me about this game. Bruins had 14 giveaways and the Canucks had 6. So that really shows you that the Bruins were pretty sloppy with the puck in this game, and it gave Vancouver more opportunities, and it just led to a disaster for the Boston Bruins. So Louis Eriksson had 2 goals and assists for Vancouver. Remember him. And Bo Hobart had 2 goals and 2 assists. So for the most part, just a complete defensive disaster by the Boston Bruins. Also, Halak, who has been really solid all year, was really horrible in this game. He allowed 5 goals on 19 shots. So he had a .737 save percentage. So he had to be taken out, and Tuukka Rask came in, and he wasn't that much better. He allowed 3 goals on 14 shots and had a .786 save percentage. So not much better. Offensively, they showed up. Patrice Bergeron had a goal. Jake DeBrusk had 2 goals. Denton Heinen had a goal. Matt Grzelcyk had a goal. Torrey Krug had 2 assists. And David Krejci had 3 assists as well. So offensively, they definitely did show up. It's just defensively they just were a train wreck. So, and then next they had to play the Toronto Maple Leafs, which made me worried because of the defensive disaster that was the Bruins. And so going into the Maple Leafs game, I was pretty worried, and going out, those worries seemed to go away pretty quickly. The Bruins actually dominated this game pretty much. So they won 5-1. Halleck was the starting goaltender. I thought he had a pretty good bounce back game considering the disaster against the Vancouver Canucks. And actually, in the first period, the Bruins seemed to be outplayed by the Maple Leafs, but luckily their defense was good enough to not allow any goals by the Maple Leafs, and the Bruins actually got the first goal of the game in the first period. And then in the second period, the Bruins picked it up with 2 straight goals, and then dominated the second period, even with Tavares' goal to end the period. And then with 2 more goals, the Bruins were able to put the Maple Leafs away. As far as the stats, so shots on goal, Maple Leafs actually had more shots, with 41 shots for the Maple Leafs, and the Bruins had 34 shots on goal. Hits, Bruins had 22, Maple Leafs had 20. Face-off wins, Bruins had 36, Maple Leafs had 32. On the power play, the Bruins were 2 for 4, and the Maple Leafs were 0 for 3. So the Bruins definitely took advantage of their power plays, and the Maple Leafs just could not. And that was definitely a big difference in this game. Block shots, both teams had 12. Takeaways, the Maple Leafs had 15, and the Bruins had 9. And the Bruins actually had 16 takeaways, while the Maple Leafs had 8. So the Bruins were a little careless of the puck a lot of this game. But like I said before, the power play was definitely a big part of why the Bruins were able to win and the Maple Leafs were not. So definitely the star of this game is David Pastrnak, who had himself a hat trick with 3 goals and an assist, and he's actually currently leading the NHL in goals with 16. So good for David Pastrnak, and he's definitely the Bruins' best offensive player. And also Joakim Nordstrom and Patrice Bergeron had a goal. And also, Patrice Bergeron also had 2 assists, and Brad Marchand had 2 assists as well. So, great production from the top line of the Bruins. And so, what really impressed me about this team was the defense. Like, offensively, I understand that they were playing against backup goaltender Garrett Sparks, so they weren't playing Freddie Anderson, so they weren't playing the Maple Leafs' #1 goaltender. But what really impressed me was the defense, which really bounced back from that pretty awful performance against Vancouver, against a team that has been averaging 3.4 goals per game and is currently 11-6. So I was really impressed by how they were able to bounce back defensively, and also like I said before, pretty impressed with David Pastrnak. So overall this week, the first 2 games were definitely defensive battles in which the Bruins had a hard time scoring, but they were able to play defense with some decent teams. And then the last 2 games of the week, the Bruins definitely put up great offensive numbers. And even though, that Vancouver game defensively they were just awful, they were able to put up goals. So and for a while, the Bruins have been struggling to put up goals in the season, so hopefully they've really fixed that. Also, I might as well mention, it was announced that Rask is going to be out for a little bit for some personal issues. The Bruins have said that Rask has been granted an leave of absence for the team for a personal matter. The team didn't offer an explanation, but Don Sweeney said shortly after the announcement on Friday that it was not health-related. So he also asked for privacy on the behalf of Rask. So whatever Rask is going through, hopefully he's able to pull through it. So, I've been very critical of Rask. I said he's been pretty underwhelming this year and that he shouldn't be the starting goaltender. But that's in the context of sports. And so I never want to try to literally insult an athlete. I always want to be critical in the context of how they're performing. So hopefully Rask is able to deal with his personal matter. And so I would say, and Rask should come back when he feels like he's ready. So, And so the next game coming up is going to be against the Vegas Golden Knights, who are a bit reeling after coming off a year in which they reached the Stanley Cup final. They're currently 7-10-1, so this is kind of what I thought they would look like, not reach a Stanley Cup. So I think they're being they're kind of coming back to reality, but definitely a talented team. So not going to be easy, but I think the Bruins should win this game. So all right then, why don't we take a break, and when we come back, it looks like the Patriots Titans game is wrapping up, and boy, I definitely have a lot to say about this game. And so when we come back, I'll recap the Patriots Titans game. Oh boy. All right, we're back, and thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude. And so all right then, so it looks like the Patriots Titans game is about done, and what a utter disgrace. This game was awful. This was. I'm trying to think. Is this the worst loss? Is this the worst performance that the Patriots have put up all year? Honestly, this might be. I'd really have to think about it. I mean that game. I mean they've looked pretty awful in their losses, but I don't know if they've looked this bad. So this is 2 straight losses to Bill Belichick disciples. So one loss to Matt Patricia, and another loss to Mike Vrabel. So let's just quickly go over the stats and explain why the Patriots played like garbage today. So on first down, Titans had 23 first downs. New England had 60 first downs. Yards, Titans had 385 yards. Patriots had 284 yards. Penalties, both teams had 4. No turnovers in this game, and possession, Tennessee had the ball for 32 minutes for 57 seconds, and New England had the ball for 27 minutes and 3 seconds. So I don't even know where to start with this game. Like every single aspect of this game, the Patriots were just terrible in. Remember how I said earlier in the show, the Patriots I thought did a really good job of limiting the Green Bay Packers, and I thought they played well against the Green Bay Packers. Well, they didn't exactly take that to Tennessee, because they reverted back to the awful defense that they've been for the past previous weeks. The defense couldn't stop the run. The Titans had 150 rushing yards. I thought they could have occasionally get pressure on Marcus Mariota, and they did sack him twice, but Marcus Mariota was able to move out of the pocket, and even though they didn't let him run on them, he was able to move out of the pocket and basically just torch the secondary that just played like complete garbage. Like Corey Davis shredded us with 7 catches and 125 yards. They made Corey Davis look like Jerry Rice out there. And also, the offense was just awful too. Even though they didn't turn the ball over, they just couldn't move the ball, and for the most part, they just looked completely dead. Brady definitely did not have a good game. He completed 21 of 41 of his passes with 254 yards, which is around 51% of his passes. So, and when he wasn't on his back, he seemed to be missing some wide open receivers, and I thought his velocity wasn't quite as good as it usually is, and his accuracy was definitely off. So Brady did not have a Brady game, to say the least. And the wide receivers also had a hard time getting separation as well. Julian Edelman was the best player for the Patriots offense. He had 9 receptions for 104 yards. However, it seemed that every time Julian Edelman was catching a ball, he was getting hit, and he was getting beat up, and near the end of the game, he was taken out. So I was definitely a little worried there that Julian Edelman was just gonna get injured for a game in which they just played like garbage. But he was able to get back on the sidelines, so that's a good sign there. And then Josh Gordon I thought was okay, with 4 receptions for 81 yards, and that's it. Everybody, all the other receivers were just awful. I mean, without Gronk, they just seemed to not really have much of a passing threat. Definitely not a tight end. At one point, Dwayne Allen was taken out of the game because he was hurt, and they had to put in Jacob Hollister. Jacob Hollister. And then also, I thought the Titans did a very good job of taking away James White in the game and the short passing game. So they definitely didn't have that. And so the Patriots had to get a lot of their plays on big chunk plays, and they definitely couldn't do that consistently, especially with Brady getting hit 1,000 times. But we'll get to that later. As far as the running game, there was no running game. Sonny Michel had 31 rushing yards, and the Patriots total rushed for 40 yards. That's just awful. And the offensive line was a complete atrocity. I will say that they are dealing with injuries. Shaq Mason wasn't playing, and Trent Brown, you could tell he wasn't quite the same. He's apparently dealing with an illness, and Marcus Cannon just got back from injury. But they were just awful. Brady got pressure all day, and he got sacked 3 times. And plus, there was no running game. Also, no Gronk to help the blocking. So no time in the pocket, no running game. And they only scored 10 points. I wonder why. And plus, to add insult to injury, on a third down, to hopefully get the game closer when it was manageable for the Patriots to come back. The Patriots did the Super Bowl play in which Julian Edelman threw a pass to Tom Brady, who did catch it this time, but instead he tripped up and he could not get the first down. And so then the Patriots had to go for it on 4th down, and they couldn't get the first down. And plus, to make things better, the Tennessee Titans decided to run the same play, and which they threw the ball to Marcus Mariota, and he got 21 yards to rub it in the Patriots' face. So, other than the fact that they couldn't run the ball, they couldn't protect Tom Brady, they could barely pass the ball, they couldn't stop the run, they made Marcus Mariota look like Joe Montana, the Titans decide to one-up us by running the same play and getting a 21-yard gain after that. Then the Titans scored another touchdown, and then the game was basically out of reach. So I turned off the TV. It was just an awful, awful, awful game. It was such an eyesore. It was like watching The Exorcist with footballs. It was like watching a horror movie. It was just... I watched this entire game until the fourth quarter, in which the Titans got up 34-10, and I just couldn't watch it. I probably would have lost my eyesight if I continued watching this game. I probably would have needed glasses after watching this game. I probably would have gone blind after watching this game if I continued watching. So I stopped watching it, and nothing apparently happened after that, because the game ended with the same exact score as I last saw it. So it was such an utter abomination disgrace. But it is one game, and the Patriots were dealing with a lot of injuries. Even though I don't think, honestly, if Rob Gronkowski played, I don't think it would have made that much of a difference, because they couldn't block for Tom Brady, and the defense was just awful. So this week, next week is a bye week, which comes at a perfect time, because the Patriots need need some time to think about how to improve and how to bounce back from this disgraceful performance, and they need time to get healthy. And then in 2 weeks, I think they get another bye week. They played the New York Jets, who recently just lost to the Matt Barkley-led Buffalo Bills. They got blown out 41-10. I have no idea how that happened, but I didn't watch the game. But that shows you just how much in disarray the Jets are, and I think Todd Bowles is probably going to be fired probably by the end of the year. So the Jets are in kind of disarray. So hopefully that should help. Hopefully that can spark the Patriots to bounce back. But this was just one of the ugliest performances I've ever seen from the Patriots. It was awful. So hopefully they never perform like this again, and they can bounce back. The Patriots are great at bouncing back from losses. So hopefully they can put this in the rear mirror and move on. All right, why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Red Sox and some of the awards that they've won. They've been nominated for and have won this week, and then I'll close out the show. All right, then. Thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and also a few guys wanted shout-outs on my show. So before I continue, I'd like to give a shout-out to Tosh Campbell and Alex Ferrari and Joe Tooney and Zach Karf. So shout-out to you guys, and hopefully you're listening to this podcast. So why don't we get into a little Red Sox news, even though the season's over and they're still basking in the World Series glory. So after the baseball season, it's award season now. So recently the MLB's been announcing the award winners for the baseball season, and the Red Sox have won quite a few awards and have been recently announced to be nominated for plenty of awards. So Ian Kinsler, Jackie Bradley Jr., Mookie Betts have all won Gold Gloves, which is an award for the best defensive players at their retrospective position. So all well-deserved, even though I think Andrew Benintendi should have definitely been considered for this position. And with the Ian Kinsler, with that bad play in Game 3, it's kind of hard to imagine Ian Kinsler a Gold Glove winner, but he's a very solid defender, and so it's well deserved. And also JD Martinez won 2 Silver Slugger awards, which is given to the best hitter at each position. I'm not really sure that this has ever happened, but in the American League, Martinez was given the award at the DH position, and then he was also given the award at the outfielder position. So good for JD Martinez. And also Mookie Betts has definitely received his fair share of awards as well. He won the Silver Slugger at his position, and he also won Defensive Player of the Year for right field. And also Betts was named the overall Heart and Hustle Award winner, beating out nominees from the other 29 teams in baseball. And also the big awards have been the nominees have been announced. And Alex Cora has been nominated for Manager of the Year, along with Kevin Cash of the Rays and Bob Melvin of the Oakland A's. So all very deserving. Obviously, I hope Alex Cora wins, with the Red Sox having a record-setting year and winning the World Series. So I think Alex Cora is going to win it, but considering how much the Rays overachieved and the A's did much better than everybody thought, it could go to them, but I think Alex Cora is going to win them. And then the one that everybody's looking forward to is the nominations for MVP, or Most Valuable Player. So the nominations were Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, and Jose Ramirez. Do any of you guys notice anybody missing? Yeah, no JD Martinez. I can't say I'm shocked, because I know how a lot of these baseball writers think, but I definitely am. Like I said, I'm not shocked, but I'm more sad. And here's the thing: JD Martinez should be an MVP nomination. I think it's kind of ridiculous that he's not, and frankly, I think it's actually kind of stupid and insulting. I mean, look at the numbers for this guy. He had a batting average of .330 behind Mookie Betts. He had 43 home runs behind Chris Davis. He had 130 RBIs, which was first in baseball. He had OPS of 1.031, which was behind Mike Trout and Mookie Betts. And he also had 188 hits, which is second in baseball. And watching this team, he was the most consistent hitter for the Red Sox, even more consistent than Mookie Betts. And I'm pretty sure the reason why JD Martinez is not voted for MVP is because a lot of the voters love their stats, and JD Martinez is a DH, so he doesn't play defense, And a lot of the stat that a lot of these guys look at is WAR, which is wins above replacement. And JD Martinez is 15th, and and he has a 6.4 WAR, which I mean does take into account defense. But honestly, I mean stats. Honestly, stats are not going to tell everything about the value of a player. You just need to watch the Red Sox and just see what the impact of JD Martinez is. Last year, this was basically the same team without JD Martinez. And last year, they were 10th in runs with 785. They were 8th in hits with 1,461. And also 27th in home runs with 168. And this year, they were first in runs with 876 and first in hits with 1,508. And also ninth in home runs with 208. So you could definitely see the impact JD Martinez has. And also, the Red Sox went from 93 wins, which was enough to win the AL East. But this year, they won 108 wins, which is the most in Red Sox history. Do you want to guess who was a big part of that run? It was JD Martinez. And I understand that playoffs aren't a factor into this. This is a regular season award. But for the past 2 years, the Red Sox have been bounced out of the first round in embarrassing fashion by teams like the Indians and Astros. And in this year, they won the World Series. So the fact that JD Martinez is not top 3 in MVP is just ridiculous. Mookie Betts, I understand, and I think he will win MVP. And Mike Trout is an amazing player. He's probably the best player in baseball. But he's always on a losing team that usually doesn't make the playoffs. You got to account for that for a little bit. I mean, I probably would have had him third, but in the MVP voting, but still. And also Jose Ramirez. Look, he had an amazing year, but at the end of the season, he was basically non-existent. He went into a huge slump. He ended the season. The last 6 weeks of the season, he didn't look like himself. He ended the season hitting 24 for 176, which is a 166 average. So so at the end he wasn't very good. So I think that probably should have taken him out of the MVP, the top 3 of the MVP. I probably would have put him like 4th. And also this doesn't count. Obviously, this is playoffs, but he was also 0 for 11 against the Astros in the playoffs. And also, I gotta say this. How come baseball is the only sport, as far as MVP, that really cares about defense? Why don't you look at the NBA? Like, last year, James Harden won the MVP, and he plays no defense. I mean, and LeBron James was ranked 7th in the MVP, and he doesn't play defense anymore. He used to be able to play defense, and now he doesn't play defense anymore. And in the NHL, the Hart Trophy goes to forwards who score goals. The past winners were Taylor Hall, Connor McDavid, and Patrick Kane. And also, this doesn't really apply to the NFL because you have defense players that play defense and players that play offense. But at the same time, the offensive players always win the award. So, I mean, this is stupid. Like, you can't tell me that JD Martinez isn't in the top 3 of the most valuable players in baseball. Just watch the Red Sox. Look at their offense compared to last year. Like I said before, last year their offense was not great, and they could barely hit home runs. And this year they had the best offense in baseball. I mean, come on, this is stupid. Oh, I have an idea. How about use a little logic instead of using just statistics? Come on! This is ridiculous! What? Are you kidding me? Ugh. Oh my god. Like I said before, I'm not really shocked that JD Martinez wasn't nominated because he's a DH, which is ridiculous. I mean, I got nothing else to say. This is ridiculous. This is asinine. This is preposterous. This is crazy. And this is a bunch of garbage. Oh my god. All right then. Why don't we just stop talking about it? I just get angry just thinking about this. These writers. Oh God. All right then. Why don't we hit on a positive news story before I go insane. So it's recently announced that Red Sox broadcaster Jeremy Remy is now cancer free for now. So good for Jeremy. Hopefully he stays cancer free, and hopefully we next season we can see him in the broadcast booth again. So good for Jeremy Remy. So all right then. Thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and next week I'll be back with some more news, and I'm out.